Yo guys, it's DDP, and today I'm going to be bringing you my Havoc Demon Hunter guide for patch 10.2 in Season 3. As you guys may know, Havoc Demon Hunter got a pretty spicy rework for the patch, and I'm going to be going over everything you need to know to be able to play it. This is going to include things like talents, gearing, stats, consumables, embellishments, rotations, and other general tips that I've found. Alright, let's get into it. So the first thing you may have noticed is the trees have changed a considerable amount. The left and the right side have changed, and they've been reworked quite a fair bit. And to say the least, they're pretty good reworks. You're able to get things like Elysium Decree on this side, you're able to now get Netherwalk, which was always a thing people wanted. But in general, if you just don't know anything about the class, it's your first time playing, I'd very highly advise you just reading every single one of these nodes and understanding what they do, rather than just copy pasting a build and just going with it. Otherwise, a lot of the times you'll come into problems where you'll just be thinking, well, why is this happening? And it's because you haven't read anything. So on the class side, this is what I'm generally going to run. You can flex points with things like this if you really care for precise sigils. However, there are macros around doing things like this or mouse overs. I personally don't run it. A lot of people would rather go Infernal Armor just for the extra armor over points like move speed, but I value move speed quite a lot, so I generally take it. But let's get into the actual spec itself, which is Havoc. So the first build I'm going to show, which is a raid build, is focused mainly around single target. It's the Cycle build and Shattered Destiny. This is the one you're going to be wanting to go into the raid first weekend with the current tier that we have. It's the highest simming current single target build that you can be running. Be utilizing things like momentum, which I know people aren't a fan of, which is why they added inertia, but we're going to have to stick it out a little bit more, unfortunately. And then you'll have new talents like Chaotic Disposition, which is new, however it doesn't really matter. It won't change your gameplay at all, it's just extra damage for free. One thing you might also notice is we're able to pick up any means necessary alongside Essence Break and Shattered Destiny. This was a really good change, to be honest, as it allows our mastery to scale a lot better. The second build that I want to show you is also a single target build, however it's a lot more flexible with what you can do with it, and it's going to be a lot more similar to the build that we're going to be running once we get our 2 set. So as you can see, we're running the new talent Inertia over Momentum. This talent feels a lot better to play, and it allows us to have a lot burstier windows. Another talent we're actually taking is a Fire Inside, which just grants us accessibility to more Immolation Auras on top of stacking multiple. You'll also get procs where you'll use it and it won't consume the charge, meaning you'll get another one, which just means, again, more inertia windows, more unbound chaoses. The flexible part that I mentioned before was able to be doing things like specking into Ragefire. You can just take a point out of Inner Demon, put it into Ragefire, and now you just have a lot better value when adds are present. This build will also be just a lot better in cleave scenarios because you'll be able to use more Immolation Auras, stacking them up, and again, if you're running Ragefire, you'll be able to pop a lot of Ragefires on ads when they spawn. This will be the build once we get our 2 set in the new tier that will be running. It's more focused on throw glaving. We just basically get free throw glaves. For pressing death sweeps, blade dances. Again, you can kind of flex a point here. Instead of removing an inner demon, you can remove a Furious Gaze for accessibility to Ragefire. Again, this build's going to be similar to the other one that I showed you before, with heavy cleave, because now you've got not only the extra immolations you'll be throwing out, you'll be having your throw glaives with all 3 of these talents, buffing your throw glaive a lot, making them bounce to additional targets. They'll be doing a lot of extra free damage. So with the raid side out of the way, I'm going to move on to more M plus builds that you can run. So this is the current one that I'll be running when going into the next season without the 2 set again, of just everything you're going into with season 2. This build's similar to the old Spread Eagle, where you're able to take things like Ragefire, Glaive Tempest. You can flex this point, however, if you want, into things like Fell Barrage if you're going to be pulling a lot of mobs. You can also put it into Furious Gaze if you want a bit more single target or just less buttons to press in general. You can take 2 Blinding Fury. This isn't a bad choice due to our I-Beam doing a lot of damage with our current tier. But with this build, you just have a lot of options. With more Immolation Auras, you have Essence Break, you have Glaive Tempest, you have Ragefire. Your I-Beam's still doing damage with your current tier, plus these 2. So it's just all round a good build. This is the build you'll be running once you get your 2 set in the new tier. You can currently run this, however, it's not going to be as strong due to you having to manually press throw glaive. Again, with this build, you can flex something like Essence Break. You can put it into Fell Barrage if you really want to, or you can put it into Glaive Tempest if you prefer. It kind of depends on how much you're pulling. If you're pulling a lot of mobs, I'd suggest putting it into Fell Barrage. If it's a tyrannical week, maybe you want more boss damage, so you'll be going more Essence Break, and Glaive Tempest is just a nice in-between. The next thing I'm going to be going over is gearing. So first up, trinkets. There's a couple of good trinkets for us in the new season. Our current best in slot is going to be from the raid Smolderon. Our other best trinket comes from a new dungeon this season called the Everbloom, and this trinket's called Witherbark's Branch. The trinket gives us a lot of mastery, and the way it works, it will spawn 3 orbs around you that will converge onto you after a small period of time. However, you can min-max the trinket by picking up the 2 initially and then kiting the 3rd orb. And so you want to pick it up and then eventually gaining the 3rd stack. This will also refresh the duration of the trinket, so it says that it lasts 10 seconds, but if you play around it, you can kite the 3rd orb, gain the 3rd stack after about 10 seconds, and then overall you'll have about a 20-second uptime on the mastery buff. Just be careful, as if you wait too long, the 3rd orb can disappear, and from my PTR testing, it seems to be around the 12-second marks after it spawned. For weapons, there's 2 juicy ones for us this season, coming from the raid, which is dropped by the Council of Dreams. It's a nice on-hit damage with a fair bit of RNG to it, however, and the other downside to this is it gains less overall stats on it, i.e. main stat and off stats. The second choice we have is from the Mega Dungeon, which you might be familiar with. It's from the first wing and it's called Double Time. This weapon has a stat on it called Time Strike, which again, more on hit damage. Now you might be wondering, what enchants am I going to be putting on these new GC weapons that you're talking about? Well, now I know you've probably heard this about 1,000 times by now, but sim your character. It's the easiest way to find out what your character needs, as no other 2 characters are going to be alike due to stat differences. But from an overall, you're going to want to be putting Wafting Devotion on both of them if you're raiding. These enchants grant a flat amount of haste, and if you're doing M+, you're going to be wanting to put Sophic Devotion. That is going to be giving main stat. Main stat beats out secondaries on AoE, however on single target something like Wafting that's giving you haste is beating out Sophic on single. For ring enchant you're going to be wanting crit on both of them, and on your chest you're going to be wanting waking stats. For gems you're going to be wanting to put 1 inscribe limited diamond on it as it's unique, and then you'll fill the rest with Sensei's Alexstrasite. For your weapon runes, just chuck on buzzing runes on both of them. Next on the list is going to be embellishments. We have 2 main options here, with the first being Toxic Thorn Foot Wraps, alongside a Toxified Armor Patch. Toxic Thorn Foot Wraps are nice for single target, as it's once again another on-hit damage effect for us. If you had a Toxified Armor Patch as well as your second embellishment, this basically just doubles up on the equipped effect that the boots will be giving you. The only downside to this embellishment is it's purely single target, as it's going to be going on the target they're going to be hitting mainly. This could be good, this could be bad, it depends what you want to do. The second option is running double blue silken lining. This is an embellishment that grants you a flat amount of mastery as long as your health is kept above 90%. These are sort of a trap in some ways, as when you're progressing a fight it'll be very hard to get good uptime on this effect, but at the same time when there are bosses with minimal rot damage, you can get very high uptime, they work very well. The upside to this over the Toxic Thorn Foot Wraps is that it plays into AoE as well, as stats are just generally better than on-hit damage for AoE. Overall, I think both are very good, but sim your character again, just to get a feel of what's better for you, now that you know the benefits and the downsides to each embellishment. For other consumables, we are going to be wanting Ice Vial of Corrupting Rage as our file choice. For a potion, we'll be wanting Elemental Potion of Ultimate Power, and for our food choice, we'll be wanting Devious Deviled Eggs. Now we're going to get into our stat priority. As I've said before, we'll be wanting to sim your character for this mainly, just to be sure, but this is going to be a general idea of what you're going to be looking for. Is crit to mastery to haste to versatility. For why these stats are good is the following. Crit makes good use of talents like Know Your Enemy and Critical Chaos, both making us scale very well with crit. Mastery has given us a flat damage increase for our chaos damage, whilst also increasing our move speed, as long as we'll be taking the talent Pursuit. Not all of our damage is chaos damage, however. But with the talent Any Means Necessary, the majority of our damage now becomes and turns into chaos damage, making Mastery one of our best stats, and again, scaling very well. Haste will increase our GCD rate, meaning smoother play style, whilst also reducing cooldowns like Blade Dance and Immolation Aura. Versatility is pretty simple. It increases your damage and healing done, and also reducing your damage taken. So finally, we're getting into the rotations. First up, we've got the Cycle build, which is mainly for raiding. I'll be playing this to start off with at 0.5 speed, just so you get a better understanding what's going on whilst I explain. There's also a tracker here for my rotation if you want to look at that. So let's start. Pre-pull, we'll be pressing Sigil of Flame, Immolation Aura, Fell Rushing, the Hunt, into an Ire Beam, into a Chaos Strike, into a Vengeful Retreat, Essence Break, Death Sweep, Meta, Death Sweep, another Annihilation, Ire Beam, and then from here on out we'll just be spending our Fury with Annihilates and Death Sweeps. You'll also be noticing we'll be pressing Fellblade a lot more than usual, as the previous talent we used to take in the last season, which is Isolated Prey, when we Fell Rush for a single mob, be gaining us Fury whilst also keeping momentum up, no longer gives Fury, so we need to get Fury somehow, which is now with Fellblade and Sigil of Flame alongside Immolation Aura. So from here, all you're going to be doing, like I said, is just spending Fury, pressing Death Sweep on cooldown, and if you don't have Fellblade or Sigil of Flame for Fury, you'll just be filling your extra GCDs with Fell Rush to get more momentum uptime. And with this build, make sure that every Eye Beam you're doing Vengeful Retreat into a Death Sweep, and if you have Essence Break up, make sure you're pressing Essence Break, then a Death Sweep. So now we'll be going over the second build which I showed you. This you can also use in single target, and again it's a bit more flexible of what you can do. Again, 0.5 speed just so you can see what's happening and I can explain. And my rotation will be here. So we open the exact same way with Sigil of Flame, Immolation Aura, Fell Rush, the Hunt, Eye Beam, Annihilation, Vengeful Retreat, Immolation Aura, Fell Rush, Essence Break, Death Sweep, Meta, Death Sweep, Annihilation, and then we'll be Eye Beaming. And then after it'll be similar to the other build, the cycle, where we just spend our Fury with Annihilations, Death Sweeps. But the big difference here is we obviously no longer have a momentum when we have inertia, so we'll be using our Immolation Auras to be buffing our Death Sweeps or Blade Dances, and you're going to be wanting to make sure that you have one Immolation Aura for an inertia window, for your Eye Beam windows, and Essence Break. You'll again want to be using your Eye Beam on cooldown. However, you do it slightly differently here, as we don't have Looks Can Kill anymore, which guarantees crits on our Eye Beams, and the inertia window sort of changes it. So when we get our next Eye Beam windows, we're going to want to make sure that we have an Immolation Aura. Use that beforehand. Then we want a Vengeful Retreat, Eye Beam, Fell Rush. Then we gain the inertia buff, Essence Break, Death Sweep, and then you're just going to want to spam as many Annihilations you can get into the window. Also, personally, I think this is a very good tip that not many people utilize. You'll see me doing it sometimes. Is when you're pressing your Chaos Strikes or Annihilations, you can get Soul Spawns. Now, sometimes you won't want these, as you'll be moving around picking them up, and sometimes you might overcap on your Fury. If you're able to, you can stand still when at high Fury levels, spawn souls, and then when you want to, you can pick them up. As long as you don't move, the soul actually won't be picked up. So if you were to say, be at 100 Fury, get a soul spawn, and if you were to pick that up, you'd overcap already. Well, you can kind of just stand still, spend some more of your Fury with Blade Dances, Annihilations, Chaos Strikes, whatever, and then when you need the Fury, you can move, and then all the souls can be picked up. And finally, we're going to be going over the last build, which is the build once you'll be running once you get the 2-piece bonus. So let's get this started again. So beforehand, Sigil, Immolation Aura, Eye Beam, Fell Rush, the Hunt, Vengeful Retreat, Essence Break, Death Sweep, Meta, Death Sweep, I'll be spending some Annihilations, Immolation Aura, Ire Beam, Fell Rush, Annihilation, Death Sweep, and then again from here on out, same as spending your Fury on Annihilations and Death Sweeps, and then when your next Ire Beam comes up, you'd be doing it similar to the other build, where you'll be doing Pre-Immo, Vengeful Retreat, Ire Beam, Fell Rush, Essence Break, Death Sweeps, and then getting as many Annihilations into the window as possible. I will point out that also this rotation could change, similar to the flexible build that I noted, as the second Death Sweep that you get currently in this rotation doesn't get buffed by the Essence Break, so keep that in mind and keep your eyes peeled, it could change. Now you might be wondering why the build changes in Season 3 once you get your 2-set bonus, and here's why. The 2-set gives us a free Throw Glaive when we Blade Dance or Death Sweep, whilst also having a 50% chance to throw an additional glaive. So we end up taking the Throw Glaive talents just to take advantage of getting a free Throw Glaives from this set bonus. And the 4-set bonus is based around the hunt, making a Throw Glaives reduce the cooldown of the hunt, whilst also increasing the duration of the hunt. Well, for me that about wraps it up. Thank you guys for watching, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for future content. I'll catch you later, see you in the next one, peace.